So we are ready to start our journey into Schoology. As Schoology expresses it, they are kind of this hub. And I know that many people in the room are actually power users, so we may lean on you a little bit as we go through this journey. But we are now starting our journey into the enterprise domain version of Schoology, where we all have access, all teachers have access. However, only some are being trained at this time. So take a minute and kind of browse through that. I think this group in particular was pretty aware of everything that Schoology had to offer. I do want to make you aware that I shared this with all of your admin teams last week and kind of gave them this graphic as a way to get their brains around Schoology and what it does, and that it's a true LMS. Google Drive, while fantastic, and Google Classroom, while fantastic, not a true LMS. So we're really talking through all of the things that Schoology brings to the table that we didn't have with just Google Classroom. You may have seen this graphic before, but you'll notice here, squarely between 19 and 20 was our planned launch of an LMS. So this is kind of that history of the EdTech Services Department and what we've done and where we're going. And right now we are squarely in that process of getting our LMS under our feet, under our belts. So where we are right now, there have been about 6 strong weeks of back-end work in production and provisioning in partnership with Schoology. We've set up our environment. Yesterday we were able to flip that switch and turn it so that your sections, your courses should have all synced. I don't know if anyone was in there yesterday like hitting refresh frantically, but it did pop up yesterday. We had, and actually that number has changed. We got up to about 90 teachers registered and attending the 2 days worth of trainings at this time. About 105 indicated they were interested in using Schoology this year, but some either could not attend the training or felt like they really had it under their belt, they were ready to dive in, and they'd reach out if they needed further support. We have completed all 156 line items of permissions, and we're going to talk a little bit about where permissions are and why they are there right now at this time. I know many of you used your own kind of free version of Schoology, so there is going to be a shift in mindset as we work toward a domain that is managed at a global level, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the conversations we want to have with you around instructional choices and permissions to make sure that they're meeting everybody's needs. Most students and courses are visible as of yesterday, and we did want to make you aware, principals were a little worried that you guys were going to come into training, see your schedules, and their master calendar may or may not have been tidied up completely just yet. So they wanted you to have an awareness that some things are still in flux in those master calendars. So if you'd had a conversation with them or you were expecting to see something different, don't panic, they may still be in process on those master calendars. So the big thing that we are super excited to bring forward with our Schoology adoption is the marriage between Schoology and Infinite Campus. And we're really, really excited about the potential for that to streamline your workflow in your classroom and to give you precious time back from manually entering grades in several different places. We wanted to give you that time back for instruction and more purposeful things in your classroom. Yay! So I know this is not a best practice for a PowerPoint slide, but you should have it there in front of you. And I kind of wanted this to be a resource that you could, I don't know, print or screenshot or save or however you want to use it. But these are some of the best practices and some of the things that as we talked through with Schoology, what do we need to know? What are red flags, things we need to be on the lookout for? What can we tell our application support team to expect when people call? So these are some of the big ones. Don't worry, you will see most of this multiple times today, but this is just a quick reference sheet for you in case you need it. So yes, you will have to manually push a button to sync those grades. That doesn't happen automatically, but it's actually a lot more seamless than it seems. They'll all kind of live in a spot for you, and you can just go select all and sync when you're ready. And it's very fast and very painless. So we'll talk through that today. You can, and I mentioned too, you can batch sync those grades. We want to be really clear. We only have about 100 teachers in the district implementing Schoology right now. So right now, we need to make Infinite Campus the go-to spot. That still needs to be the hub. That still needs to be the plan. When you direct a family to check their grades or you direct a student to check their grades, they're going to Infinite Campus. That is considered the overriding main thing. We wanted to try and avoid the confusion of, well, my son says he's got a 78.6 in Schoology, but he's got a 62 in Infinite Campus, and I took a screenshot of it, so that's the way it's going to be. So we're trying to even that process out. So Infinite Campus is still where you will go for attendance. It is still where you will go for the final grades, and that will be where families are still directed to look for grades. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go. We'll talk about deleting and unpublishing. As you're setting up your sync and grades start syncing back and forth, if you have that moment where you go, oh, I need to adjust this student's grade, let me just pop into Infinite Campus and adjust it in this column, you kind of break the sync. So we'll talk a little bit about safeguarding yourself against that, but if you're troubleshooting, if you're noticing a problem, this may be one place to check. Did I accidentally manually mess something up in Infinite Campus? Now you have to delete that whole column in Infinite Campus and resync it from Schoology. So there are some little things we need to fine tune and get used to, but I think once we make them habit, it won't be too much of a problem. Yeah?
So you're saying only creating a new assignment in Infinite Campus will break the sync, or if the assignment's been created in Schoology, it's been updated into Infinite Campus, and I go into Infinite Campus and update the one grade, that breaks the sync?
Both.
Okay.
Yes.
So don't touch grades at all in Infinite Campus?
It's going to become best practice if you are using the sync feature between Schoology and Infinite Campus to not fiddle in Infinite Campus. It's going to become that best practice. We have workarounds and fixes for most of the things that can happen if you do, but best practice will be to really do all of your tweaking and manipulating and such in Schoology. Yeah?
So then, just to kind of recap, you're saying Infinite Campus pulls from Schoology but doesn't necessarily push to it.
Correct. Bingo. Yes, Infinite Campus pulls from Schoology but does not necessarily push to it. Yeah? Okay, I'm going to go 1, 2, and then I'm going to scoot a little, and then we plan to address most of this throughout the day. I just wanted to kind of touch on it lightly before we set the stage. Yes, ma'am?
Is there an app for Schoology?
Yes, there is. And is it Matt or Travis that was going to talk about the app? Or just kidding.
We'll mention it throughout the day.
Spoiler alert, there's an app. Okay, perfect. Perfect. Yes, there is an app, and there are some cool things about the app, but there are some limitations with the app. So it's all about you and your purpose and your own workflow. Where did I leave off? Okay, yes. So there are a few things in the Schoology gradebook that we go, oh, how cool, this is amazing. But they aren't translating yet to Infinite Campus because basically everything has to be mapped identically. So things like incompletes, they appear in Schoology, but it doesn't have a place to map in Infinite Campus. Missing does, excused does, but incomplete as of this time doesn't. I believe over time they'll probably update that, but right now there are some things to be aware that some things won't sync. This one here in bold, or in caps, really critical Schoology related to us, that this is one of the #1 things that they troubleshoot with teachers and institutions. If an assignment is not given a category, it won't map. So it's really critical, and as we look at the gradebook today with Matt, he's going to talk and show you through that process of kind of setting up your gradebook. If you don't give something a category, it won't map, which, as you can imagine, throws off those scores. They're not going to look identical anymore. There is a little bit of purpose behind that. If you don't want something to map to a final grade, you cannot give it a category. But we're going to talk about a best practice for making a category just called ungraded, and I think we've got a good plan going forward with that. But I did want to point you back to this. If you're troubleshooting and you're going, why is my gradebook being so, they're not matching up, things aren't right, maybe check here first and see if it's a category issue, and there's a one-stop shop where you can see all your assignments, the categories they have, and you can kind of scroll and go, oh, dang it, this is the one that I need to go back and put a category for. And then finally, you will be performing that one-time mapping of Infinite Campus to Schoology every grading period. Hopefully, once you get used to it, 15 minutes, maybe 20, of time spent at the beginning of a grading period or of a semester to go in and map, make sure everything looks tidy, and then you're good to go, smooth sailing for the rest of your semester. So yes, that question came up multiple times yesterday. Do we have to do this every? Yeah, we do, okay? So we will continue to revisit this throughout the day. Yes, sir?
Is the long-range plan that Schoology is going to replace Infinite Campus?
No. Two totally different things. Great question. Will Infinite Campus, or will Schoology replace Infinite Campus? Infinite Campus is a SIS. It's a student information system. It houses all of our student data, demographics, attendance. It reports to the state. It's where CalPads lives. That is a firm institution for us. Schoology, more of a learning management system. Lots of overlap in that Venn diagram. They do a lot of similar things, but we have two completely separate purposes for each tool. Great question. Yeah?
Are you working with Schoology to get that mapping kind of automated so that teachers don't have to spend all that time re-establishing all the grading
That's a
policies and
great
categories?
question.
I mean, it should be pretty simple to mirror it over.
It's actually not. It seems like it should be. There's two parts to your question. The first question is, are we working with Schoology to kind of iron some of this stuff out? We have been talking with Schoology sometimes daily, and they have been super responsive. They give us a team on the phone. They point us in the right direction. In a moment, I'll show you a doc where we're sort of housing ongoing questions and feeding those to Schoology very frequently, and getting answers back in pretty quick time from them. The problem that we're finding is that the way that we can turn things on and off is based on future sections, current sections, section titles, sections that are duplicated, and so there is a lot of nuance to it, and we want to make sure if we do get to a place where we're ready to ask them for that feature or whatever, that we've got our brains around everything else and how it's working. So yes, ongoing conversations. You guys are kind of our test group in an amazing way, and so you will be helping us throughout this year to really lock down, look, we got to tell Schoology this is a high priority for us. We got to let them know this is something we need with urgency. So we will be relying on you throughout the year to help us with those things. Okay? So permissions, I want to talk a little bit about this. Yes, this is a test year. Some perspective, we only have about 100 teachers in the district using it. So we can't necessarily turn on all the things because of any given student, their day may look like one Schoology teacher and 5 non-Schoology teachers. The other thing is that we want to add a little bit of protection for you this year. We didn't turn on all the chats and messaging and all of those things because we want you to have the opportunity to have success with instruction with Schoology first, and then we can have those conversations around what additional tools are you seeing that you'd like to play with, that you think maybe would be helpful to you. Let's have a conversation about instruction and purpose with that. And then we are very receptive to what you want in terms of some shifts and permissions. We'll take that out to the whole group. We'll see kind of what we need to adjust. Yes, sir?
Will using the infinite campus messaging mess up that syncing?
No, absolutely not. Great question. Infinite campus messaging will not mess with Schoology at all. Great question. Okay? So because of that, we do have some, I would say, probably a little bit tighter lock on some of the permissions this year. For some of you that have been power users, kind of just out there doing your own thing, using Schoology, free version, you might feel like, that feature that I liked is not available here in this version of Schoology. It's a little bit of growing pains, but once we kind of adapt and grow and we bring more teachers on board and we see more need for those things, we'll have a little bit more of a case to go in and turn those on and allow a little bit more freedom and access within Schoology. So more lockdown to start, but instructional conversations will grow as we gain momentum with the program. And then we want to just help ensure that you have an understanding that Schoology doesn't have to be your whole day. Yesterday, kind of at lunch, it's bubbled up to the surface that some people were saying, do we have to have everything? Like, what if I don't want to bring this course in? Absolutely. This is a tool for you to use at your discretion. If you're ready to hit the ground running and you are all in with Schoology, fantastic, we support that. If you really just love this for your one elective class or for, however it works for you, we're all in and supporting you with that. So however it works for you, and we want to make sure that you're aware of the features that Schoology has to support your non-digital curriculum as well. That you can go in and create that assignment category, but select that nothing digital has to be turned in. It's just maybe you're doing a gallery walk, maybe it's a performance in class, maybe, so we really want to make sure that we highlight those features today as we go through. So that's just a little bit of context around permissions and where we are with that right now. We also want to mention that the district's vision and kind of our professional learning focus over the next few years will be UDL, or Universal Design for Learning. And that is where we really look at barriers to student access. What is preventing students from accessing or engaging with the curriculum? We're looking a lot at diversity, we're looking a lot at demographic groups, we're looking a lot at individual and unique needs of students. And we really feel that Schoology is the perfect partner for that work. So as we go through today, we might point out a few things and say, hey, this is one of those features that's really going to allow you to differentiate. This will really allow you to personalize in your classroom, because as you dive into UDL at your sites through your professional learning journey, you'll be able to speak to, hey, for those of you joining on to Schoology, this is a feature that we have and this is a way that we can support that. So, a couple of things to keep in mind as we get started today. This is our test year, so we would love to come in and be experts for you today and be able to answer every single question you have, but we are still getting our brains around it as well, so please be patient with us. We are going to work as hard as we can to get fast answers for you, but also to make sure that we're protecting you and making sure you have a smooth experience with your students once you launch this. We're all learning this through this process together. We want you to know you have a strong support team through this process. Your DLCs are really, they have such a good grasp in such a short amount of time of what this looks like in terms of instructional practice. So they are going to be your partners in this work. The entire ETS team, we have a couple of members of ETS Application Support here with us today to help out and just kind of make sure that we're all in the same place in our process. There's that Schoology PLC community. I know those of you that were power users may have already made connections to other teachers in other states and people teaching your same content in other places to share resources and so on and so forth. Application support has been, we messaged several times yesterday and managed, excuse me, to get things turned on or turned off right away. And then Schoology has built-in support. Once we get you logged in, you'll notice a little blue button down at the bottom right with an S in it. That is their built-in support. You click that, you search for something, and it pops up all of the relevant info or articles that you might want to read. And then we are, of course, in frequent conversations with Schoology to say, hey, this is where we are. We got to get this updated quickly. We have an urgent need for this. Why isn't this working? And they're super responsive to us. So that has been a great part for us. A couple of things just about our professional learning today. A little bit of this is takeaway from feedback we got at the end of the day yesterday. Everyone's here because we love kids. We're passionate about this work. We think this is going to affect our practice and student engagement, student learning, and student achievement. We're all here because we're excited about this work. We may not all have the answers, but if you could presume that positive intent as we work through today, that'll make for a really comfortable environment for everyone. Be mindful, please, of the bird walking and sidebars at the table. A lot of the feedback that we got yesterday was, I was trying to hear Franz, what he was saying, but there was kind of an intense conversation going on at the table behind me or the table next to me, and I didn't catch it, and I missed it, and then I got behind. So if you could be mindful of that, if you get to a place where you're like, can we have 2 minutes for conversation, Franz, or hey, Travis, can we pause and just take a minute so we can parse through this? That would be appreciated. So just be mindful of that and everybody's learning style around you. That would be greatly appreciated. Presenters do have a carefully crafted timeline. We're on a little bit of a schedule. We're aiming for that 12 o'clock lunch. And then hopefully when we come back in the afternoon, you will have lots of time to explore, play, create, set up, all of that stuff that you need to do. So the goal is lots of structure in the morning, walking you through things, a little bit more sandbox time in the afternoon. Does that make sense? Okay, perfect. And then once again, your site administrators wanted me to mention there may still be changes in those calendars. Best practice with any LMS. You guys know what the first couple weeks of school look like, right? It's shifting in classes, it's dissolving of courses, it's adding of courses, it's combining of things, kids transferring in, kids transferring out. I don't want you to live and die in Schoology in those first couple of weeks and then be heartbroken if that course dissolves and everything you put in there is now gone. So as we talk about gradebook and resources, we'll give you a few best practices. Hey, pop this into resources, that way if that course dissolves, you can just pop it right back into whatever populates in its place. So we'll share that with you, but as you plan your year, as you plan your first few weeks of school, don't necessarily feel like it all has to get into Schoology right away. Give yourself that buffer of the first couple weeks of school. I know there's a lot of movement and a lot of change, and I don't want to make more work for myself, okay? All right, so with that in mind, we have a document kind of trying to alleviate a little bit of those side conversations and things that can maybe affect the people around you. If you come up with a burning question and you think it's for the good of the group, or even if it's just a really important thing for your practice and you'd like us to look into it, this document right here is just kind of a crowdsource. And if you would like to go in there, if you come up with a question, just grab an open row, pop your name in there, type your questions. Some of them I'm able to answer in real time from the back of the room, and some of them I take back to Schoology at the end of the day, or back to application support at the end of the day. So that's a nice way to allow the presenters to kind of keep their momentum without us hitting a million questions, and also to avoid some of those side conversations. All right, so once again, we want you to know you have tons of support in this process. You are kind of a little bit helping us learn it as well, and in appreciation for that, for the extra frustration that might come or the extra working through of processes that it's going to take you, we want to offer you as much support as we possibly can. So all of the departments in ETS are really excited to support you with this, and then of course those other features like Schoology and your PLCs. Next steps. We're in trainings right now. We've got some ongoing support planned for you this year. We are going to offer the ability for teachers that were hired after a certain date to have kind of a quick makeup Schoology intro if they're really interested in getting on board. And then we'll have one more session in January for teachers who kind of want this six-hour workshop experience. So we'll have that going on this year. 2021 and beyond, the plan is to begin that sunset of Google Classroom. Rest assured, it's not going anywhere this year. It's not going anywhere next year. We don't know what everything after that looks like, but the eventual plan would be to sunset our domain of Google Classroom. We do know that some of you will still be using Google Classroom as you roster for other apps, things like No Red Ink and what was the other one? Quill. Other things that you might use that don't have that LTI or external app capability with Schoology yet. So it's okay. We're keeping Google Classroom around for a while. We recognize that it still has a place and a purpose, but the goal is eventually to get everyone into Schoology and using its robust features. And then, yes, yet again, not best practice for a presentation slide, but a resource for you, just to know who's available. I did link the DLC request form right there in case you want to go in and ask them to come out and work on your gradebook with you. The other thing I just want to share is that it's really important to me, being new to this role, to get to know you, your students, what your experience is. I very much consider myself a teacher at heart. I was kind of pried out of my classroom, so I'm happy to be here in this role. This is a dream come true for me, but I would love to be in your classrooms. I don't want to be a pest or a nuisance or a menacing presence, but I want to see that student interface. That's something we haven't had a chance to really dive into, is what the student experience looks like. So if you are willing, I may be reaching out and saying, hey, if you're willing to have me pop in or have one of the DLCs come by and just kind of see what you're doing or get an idea of what's being a problem for you, I would love that invitation to come out and visit with you and your students. Okay, so I am going to pass the Britney Spears mic over to Franz. He looks really cute in it, by the way. There you go, Franz. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
See those dance moves.
All right, so good morning and welcome. Nice seeing you all. So today we have a lot for you. Today is jam-packed with stuff. Okay, by the end of today, your brain will explode. Guaranteed. Okay. So I'm not trying to preempt this by scaring you and things like that. There's just a lot going on. And so what we tried to do today was to kind of focus it just a little bit on the one thing that's going to be really important, and that's next week, Wednesday, when you have students come in, and that's the instructional piece. Because there's a lot going on besides instruction and things like that within Schoology, and I'm going to highlight and touch upon some of those things, but not spend much time on them. We're going to kind of gloss over it and move on, okay? As we move through the day today, obviously if you need to take a break and things like that, please go and do that and go to the restroom, things like that. We are going to have big blocks of time where we're just going. We have that goal for you today, is make sure we get through that instructional piece so you understand what's happening and taking place, okay? So we are happy to answer questions and things like that. We would actually really suggest that if you could put those questions into that doc that Tiffany just shared with you. And if you need that link again, I can put that back up here. But she's going to be on there. One of us might be on there. And so we can answer those questions as we go, because we do have a timeline we want to get through today for you, okay? We have some items that you might have picked up already at the front table, but we also have digital versions on this page of the slide deck. We have the agenda here. That might be nice because there are some links on here that could be useful to you at some point, maybe today, maybe not, okay? We also have a note sheet. We had the analog version up there. We have a digital version here that if you want to take notes and things like that throughout the day, please feel free to do so in one place or another. We've set up the note sheet in such a way that you can kind of follow along on the different sections as we go through it. Okay? And the last one we won't use quite yet. We'll use this in the afternoon. So the morning is all the stuff and information and things like that. The afternoon is your playtime a little bit to kind of dive in, but also to make sure that you remember some of the things that we talked about. You can do those things before you leave. And so we have this kind of as, hey, can you do this before you get out of here today? If not, let's talk about it and things like that, okay? We also have a lot of resources. You're going to join a course that we've created for you that goes through some of the items that we're going to show you. But we also will message you in such a way that you'll find the resources all together in one place so you can refer to them down the line. I have been really pleased with the support structure that Schoology has. A lot of information, a lot of videos and things like that. And we've tried to pull all those things and organize them in such a way that follows our training today. Okay? But there's other stuff out there that we're not going to touch upon. Like obviously you're also welcome to explore and things like that down the road. Okay? All right. So I'm going to start here real quick. And what I'm going to do is kind of set the stage a little bit and give you the big picture of things. And then we're going to start getting a little bit more narrow, and then spend some time later on this morning with that instructional piece, okay? But I'm going to give you kind of the broad overview, because like I said, there's a lot happening. There's a lot taking place within Schoology. But before we get there, I would like to review a few things, and that is your homework assignment. Okay? And the reason for that is we wanted you to do some of these things just to kind of get ready. So hopefully you've been able to sign in to Schoology, that your Google account works and all that kind of stuff to sign in, because that's what you use, and you're in there. Okay? Has everybody been able to do that? Yes. Thumbs up. Awesome. Okay? Second thing, and I'll kind of pinpoint this just a little bit, on your profile. You can go in and change your picture if you want to or not. That's up to you, but we gave some instructions there. Okay? We'll talk a little bit more about these settings here in just a moment. The one I really want to focus on is this one. Did everybody do this right here? This is important, this flash piece. Okay? This has to be enabled, and I'll highlight this and talk about this a little bit more a little bit later. But if you have not done that, that is hugely important. And then at the bottom of the homework, there were some boxes down here for grading categories to set up. And so we hope that you've kind of taken some time, if not between now and later this morning, maybe take some time and add some items to this and how your grading categories are going to be set up, because we're going to have you walk you through the grade setup process, okay, and what that would look like and things like that. So it'd be really great to have in mind what you want to put down on there. Okay, question?
Did you want us to set up the categories in Infinite Campus first, or is that no longer?
We'll get there. Okay. All right.
Now, with the signing into Schoology, you use your GUHSD account, and then you saw the tiles of the courses. When your students go to Schoology, they'll do the same thing. They'll click on the link, so they set up. They'll use their GUHSD account, and when they get in, they will also see tiles of courses. Okay? If you've used Schoology before, there's those really, really long join codes to add a course. For the purposes of a second period math or third period history, Infinite Campus calculates that for the students. We're going to have you join a class that we've created a little bit later on that uses that long code, but that's going to be the exception rather than the norm for most things that people do in the classroom.
And then also, this might come in handy, also the little extra credit that we have for you to create specific pictures to put into your periods, and we'll talk more about that. So if you have those ready, great. If you've already done it, great. But we'll talk more and highlight some of the things about the courses as well. Okay. We also wanted to mention that there's some instructions on the agenda on this digital version here, that as you go through and you take your notes, if you want to take some screenshots of things, that would be great to put in your notes. But we would also suggest that if you have a question about something, that you take a screenshot of that item and put it into that document where you're asking those questions, so we have a better reference and idea of what it is that you're talking about. So if you don't know how to take a screenshot, there's a little quick toolkit right here to show you how to take a screenshot on a Mac PC or a Chromebook. Okay? All right. So why don't we go ahead and sign in to Schoology. Give you a moment to do that. And just land right at the home page. Give you a moment so I can see on screens the home page up. It's GUHSD.Schoology.com. Make sure you bookmark that. So it's up in your bookmark bar. Easy access click, you go right into it. All right. So, yes. Schoology.com. We also have it linked on the agenda as well. All right, so first thing, I know you went through your homework and you copy and paste that URL that was there in order to enable Flash, okay? I just want to take a moment because what we've noticed is that sometimes, for whatever reason, closing the browser, restarting your computer, things like that, that might go away. And it needs to be enabled. So how do I re-enable it? Well, there's that link, but also let me show you this as well, that if you go to the top and there's this little lock on the browser, okay, click on that. Right now, my Flash pops up, okay, and it says ask. Well, I don't want it to ask. We want it just to allow it so it just runs, okay? So I want to switch it to allow. Now, here's the thing. Sometimes this won't pop up right there. For your students, they need to be doing this as well. And when they get kicked off and restart the computer and go back into the site, they might not remember it. So they need to re-enable it as well. Okay? So you need to tell them that. Okay? Show them this. And if it doesn't show up right here, if they go down here to Site Settings and they click on that, it opens all the settings for that website, and they can find Flash right there. And then with the drop down, hit Allow. Okay? Now, this is not just for Schoology. Just to give you a little quick FYI, Flash is going to sunset as well at some point. Adobe, who makes Flash, is going to say we're not going to support it anymore. This has been on the horizon. It's been coming. And Google is like, yeah, we know what's going to come, and we're going to make Flash harder and harder to use on our browser so people don't get used to using it. So over the last several years, you've had to go through different menu items like this right here to enable Flash. Okay? Well, there's a lot of stuff out there that still uses Flash, especially those of you who are science teachers. There's a lot of stuff that's out there in terms of interactives, things like that, that we use online, on websites that use Flash. Well, if you get to a page and the Flash is not loading and that thing's not loading, make sure you have your students go here, allow it for that website, and then they can use Flash for now.
Is Flash only used on Schoology for like file uploads and stuff?
That is correct. Yeah. And there's also a different way to use it and things like that to do those file uploads and so on. But it's also used for recording, voice, and video. So definitely they need to be enabling that. Okay? All right. So just a little FYI on that. All right. So really quick, I want to kind of take you a tour and have you do a few things on the home page. Okay? So the first one is right here, this GUHSD logo. You click that no matter where you are at, and it takes you back to this home page. Okay? Now, when you get to the home page, the default is what you see here with the tiles of all your courses. You also have another little menu, Recent Activity, that you can click on. And it shows you all the different posts and maybe assignments that have been pushed out and things like that from your courses. You can choose what your default is, whether it be your course dashboard or recent activity. That's up to you. Okay? And I'll show you where that setting is in just a moment. The other thing you can do on this course dashboard is if you don't like the order of how these courses are displayed, you can move them around. Actually, I want that one as my first one, and move that one around. And I want this one right here, and move that one around. Okay? So that might be useful as well as you start categorizing your courses by period or whatever it is. And when they show up here, you have that same thing happening.
Can
Yes?
I hide semester 2?
No. Right now, you cannot. Right now, okay, and we have that out already as a request and things like that because honestly, that sync between Infinite Campus and Schoology happened yesterday morning. Okay? So yesterday morning, we're like, oh, this is the first time we're seeing everything. Okay? So when we go through this, Travis, Matt, Tiffany, and I have been diving into this for the last about week and a half, 2 weeks. Okay? But we are still learning along with you, especially this part with what the Student Information System, Infinite Campus, and Schoology are doing. That's brand new to us. We've been living in the sandbox and stuff like that for 2 weeks. Okay? So there's going to be some questions that we don't have answers to and things like that. Okay? There would be some things that's like, hey, this would be useful. Well, yeah, it could be, but we don't know how to do that yet. Like, can we hide semester 2 and only show semester 1? Not yet. Okay?
Franz,
Yeah.
it's showing the same class at every campus. So I'm showing guitar at El Cap and Santana and everywhere instead of just my son. Can I remove tiles so that I?
I'm going to have, no, you can't, and I don't know why it's doing that. So there's a sync thing that's happening. I don't know. I don't have an answer for that. Can you put that on your on the doc? Thank you. All right, so I'm just going to go up through here really quick because there's some things that we need to do. There's a search feature for Schoology. You can search things within courses, things like that if you need to find it quickly. I want to go right here. It looks like the Windows icon, looks like a waffle, looks like, you know, window panes, whatever you want to call it. This is the App Center. For some of the things that we need to do, we need to install some apps, okay? And your students do as well. So we're going to walk through that process, okay? So click on those tiles, the waffle, and then click on App Center. Now, there's a lot of different things that integrate with Schoology that you can use within Schoology. And as you scroll down this list, there's a lot there. Okay? I will tell you, a lot of these things require some sort of key, some sort of subscription. Okay? Some of these things require that the system administrator, right, activates them so then you can use them. Okay? So there's a lot of different things that's happening. So some stuff you might be able to use in here. You go, oh, that's cool, I want to use that. Well, you might not be able to, or you might, depending on what it is. Okay? Travis, did you have something to add to that? No.
To the external tools?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not going to dive deep into those today. That's something that we're on our end we're going to go into. There's some security issues that need to, so if you have a third-party license, if you have an Edpuzzle, like El Cajon Valley has a specific Edpuzzle account that they're paying for, we have to go in and figure out how that's going to connect and embed within the Schoology system, so your students don't have to leave Schoology to go to Edpuzzle. The Edpuzzle theoretically would be embedded within Schoology, and all work would take place there. Now, as far as automatic grading that happens with that, we haven't gotten there either because we don't have students in yet, and those are the things we'll be working with. So what are the compatibility with these websites? How do we embed them into Schoology's system so everything's kind of streamlined and centralized? That's kind of where we're going with this content here.
So we're not there yet. So we'll be working on, it's one of the big things that we'll be talking about moving forward.
Yeah, Quizlet
is what this looks like.
On this list here. As long as it doesn't say resource app, anything that doesn't say resource app, that's what we're referring to with the external tools at LTI.
So is LTI going to be available? Like, are we going to be able to bring in data from other apps?
It is available now, and you can install these and start working with it if you want.
But not all of
it. We at an institutional level have some, we're not sure of our capacity to preload that for teachers. But you guys can start digging in if you want to by installing everything here and seeing how it works, absolutely.
But not right now.
Not right now.
Except these ones that I'm going to show you that have to be right now. Okay? You can explore the other 100 of them later on some other time.
When is not right now going to be right now? Just out of curiosity.
Right now.
All
right.
It's available for you too.
Okay, so the first one I want you to install says right here, Google Drive Resource App. Okay, and there's a button right up there. Once you click on it, install Resource App. Okay, once you hit the agree and stuff like that, where is it going to go to? It's going to go to add to my resources. Okay. So then install it. So on the top left, it has the install. You get it? Okay. Yep. All right. So that's the first one. And we want to make sure it's there. So there might be a secondary thing that we'll have to do. So it's going to go into our resources. So right up here it says resources. So click on resources. And then down here it says apps. Right down here. Okay. And then your resource app should be right there. So down here on the left-hand side, should say apps, click on apps, and then you should have an icon there. And then I already loaded mine, okay, but then you should have a pop-up right here that says install, approve, what is it? Approve. So click on that. Okay? And then you're going to get an unhappy face, some of you. Reload the page. Once you reload the page, then you should have another window that pops up that says connect with the Google sign on it. Connect your Google account.
This is what makes my train because
Okay, once you connect your Google account, you should see a whole bunch of Google files there. So let me give you a moment to get there before we move on. I don't see that on everybody's screen quite yet.
I'm like, it's so messy. So I'm like, okay, now when do I log in it? Is it going to deny?
All right, so let me tell you a couple things about this. First of all, when you look at this, you go, wait a minute. This is not what my drive looks like. Where are all my folders? Because believe me, when I look at this is not my drive. Well, it is, but it's not. I don't have all my nice folders and all that kind of stuff right here and things like that. Okay? So this is a limitation on the connection that Google allows third-party companies to connect to their stuff. So it's not exact and beautiful and things like that. It's there, but I can't necessarily find it. And even when you scroll, you don't find all your folders and things like that. Some of them might be there, not all of them. Okay? So if you're trying to find something in your drive within Schoology, search. Okay? Hopefully you know what it is. If not, open up another tab so you know what the name is and search it in there and then bring it in, or there's also a way to bring it in with the link and things like that. Okay? So there's a limitation to this. So just be aware of that. Okay? It's not a GUHSD thing, it's a Google thing. Okay?
Are all the apps that we're downloading the same exact ones that students will?
Yeah. All right, so that's app number 1. Sir?
Question. If we can't find what we're looking for there, don't want to spend time searching, we go just back to Google.
Yeah, just open up another tab, go to your drive.
Okay.
Yep. All right, let's go back to the App Center. The second thing we want to install is this one right here, Google Drive Assignments. So I'll click on that and install right here. It says install LTI App. Click on that button. Hit agree, and then all your sections pop up. Okay? Click all of them. Put them into all your courses.
It says the course admin on it. Yes.
I'm sorry?
Course admin question.
Since course admin.
That's us, right?
Oh no, just do the whole course. Don't do just the course admin part.
Should we do both?
No, just the whole course. Just the course.
Do it for that course?
Because that way, I'm sorry?
Even if you don't want it.
Yes, because you don't have to use it later. We just want to make sure it's there for you. Yes.
all the things. Yeah, like I think I only have like a couple
Yeah, I don't know.
sections.
Pull in whatever it is from your campus.
So I should even click on my existing one.
All right. Everybody have that installed? No, get a degree, do all that kind of stuff. Some of you might have a lot of courses, a lot of clicks to do. Once you do it, you're done. Okay, because remember, you have both semesters on there as well. So you're done. Have to do this again for the rest of the year. Let's get a new course.
I was going to say, so if a new course comes up or next year, we'll do it again?
Yep.
So we have to do it individually or all at the same time?
You can just do it once all at the same time.
So, like, I would just assign it all.
When you install the YouTube app, does it automatically put ad blocker in there, or do the ads come through into your content? Do you know?
On top of my head, I don't. All right. So we are done for that part for now. Okay, you can explore all the rest of those apps in the App Center sometime down the road. I am moving on. Okay? Going back up to the menu items at the top. The next one is the calendar. Okay? Now, really quick, if I go back to my home page, on the right-hand side, I do have some reminders, and then I do have kind of a calendar overview of upcoming events. For example, tomorrow, Friday, I have all these assignments plus an assessment due. Okay? So that's the things that are coming up. So you have a preview on the home page right when you get there. You can link to your calendar right there from the home page, or at the top in the menu, it's always up here, so you can go to it up here. Okay? So when I click on it from either place, up here or here, it opens up this calendar. Whatever you put into your courses that have a due date, okay? They have a due date, they populate on your calendar. Okay? Now, from your calendar, you can do a couple things, move things around and things like that. By changing the due date, you can do that. Okay? But you can click on something, edit the description of that event, whatever it is. So you have some options from your calendar. You can also go through, and I'll show you here in the settings in just a moment, you can link your Google Calendar to this one. Okay, but hey, it's only one way. The Schoology stuff populates into your Google Calendar. It does not work the other way. Okay? So keep that in mind as well. So all your appointments, all the stuff having taken place on campus, things you put in for calendar events in your Google Calendar, that's where you always will see them. If you want to import your Schoology calendar into your Google Calendar, cool. So you can keep track of due dates and things like that for your students, whatever it is. Yes. Otherwise, they'll just live here in Schoology. It's up to you and what you want to do. Yes, ma'am.
So students can use the calendar to click on upcoming assignments and jump to them?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
All right. Next one is messages. Okay. As we mentioned earlier, we have things turned on and off. Okay, the permissions for different things. Right now, the only way that you can message out is between teacher to teacher through this. Okay? Students have this part turned off. They cannot message each other. Okay, they can message you as a teacher from inside your course, okay, but they cannot message each other. Notifications. You'll have, as you can see here, a little circle with number of notifications popping up. Okay? Lots of them going on, things like that. Things that were turned in, replies to discussions, all that kind of stuff. Okay? So that's where you'll see that. You'll also see right here it says requests. Because you're an educator, now you're in a bigger education community, not only within our district, but also within Schoology. There's kind of a social media aspect to Schoology where you can connect with other educators. Okay? Well, if somebody requests that connection, like a friend, to follow you, whatever it is, you'll see over here that notification that somebody is requesting to connect with you. Okay? And I'll talk more about that here in just a moment. Okay? All right. Profile. Let's all go there, please. So as I mentioned, there's kind of a social media aspect to Schoology. When you go into your profile, that's kind of what is here and what you see. So part of your homework assignment, if you wanted to, was to change your profile picture. Again, you don't have to. You can always put something else. I will tell you, though, that your students can, yes, they can, see your profile. So as you start adding things, if you want to, you don't have to, like a bio, things you like to do, so on and so forth, they can see all that. So keep that in mind. Okay? All right. So there are some things, if people follow you, you know, you can post updates and things like that. You have a blog that they can follow you on the blog and subscribe to your blog. There is a portfolio piece, keeping track like a professional portfolio if you want to and things like that. Yes, students have access to this portfolio piece. No, it is not as good as the portfolios we've been talking about for the last several years. Okay? Because this will keep track of everything that they do through all 4 years of high school. So if you have teachers adding stuff to the portfolio, well, it could be a whole lot. 6 classes times 4 years, you know, lots of stuff going on there, okay? So keep that in mind. May not, could be, depends, but may not be the best place for things. Our digital portfolios we've been talking about is the better place, okay? All right, so that is profile, okay? Next, you should have your school listing on here. Okay, so I clicked on school. I'm actually in a couple of different areas. One is El Cajon here. Okay, I'm also in the Grossmont part. So what you can then have when you're in the school area is a school, and this is not going to happen yet. Remember, there's only about 100 of us or so in the district that are actually early adopters and moving forward with this. So your school sites might not be using any of this stuff yet, perhaps down the road. Okay? So populating things like updates and information and so on and so forth. Putting resources on here, that will come over time. But because you are connected to a school site, then you do have a list of all the teachers and stuff like that at your school site. Okay? So not much in terms of practical use yet for this part, but it'll come. Let's go to settings, please. Okay, I'm going to drop down to settings. Okay, there's not much you can do on this first part where it says account settings. There is the account password, right? You can't necessarily change that because it's tied to your Google. So you can't change it within Schoology. You got to change it on your Google side and all that kind of stuff. Okay? I mentioned earlier that you can connect your Google Calendar to Schoology, or actually vice versa, Schoology to Google Calendar. That's where you would do it right there. Yes?
My Schoology account is an old legacy account. It's tied to an old password.
Yeah.
It's not tied to my school Gmail account.
Yeah.
How can I fix that?
Can you put that on the questions page, please?
All right.
I don't know. I don't have an answer to that at the moment. All right. And so we talked about earlier the flash piece and things like that, right? This is where it becomes important when they do file uploads and things like that. But also we'll show you some other things later on, okay? And then also you can change your home page and what you see, either the course dashboard or the activities piece. If you want to change that, you can do it right there, okay? All right, notifications. Let's talk about this really quick. These are your global settings for everything that's happening and taking place within Schoology. Okay? This notifications is if you want. It is not tied to notifications at the top of the menu. Let me preempt that. Okay? It's not tied to that. This is about if you want to receive emails about things happening within Schoology. And you can see all the different things that you can receive emails for. Currently, by default, they're all off. If you want to turn something on, turn it on. Okay? Now you'll also notice next to it I have a new column that you probably don't have. And that is a mobile column. I have on my device the Schoology app installed. So I have some of these notifications turned on my device, and so I can change that and turn them on and off here. So if you ever decide to connect a device, an iPhone, an iPad, any other tablet and things like that to it, you will see this, and then you can toggle those things on and off as well. Okay? All right. And the last thing I want to mention here, I know I'm just talking about some just general things. Again, I want to set the stage, make sure you know what this is, and tell you, hey, keep away from some of this stuff, or this is what this means. Might be useful, might be not. Okay? The last one is the recycle bin. One of the nice things is that even if you trash things, it's still here, and you can retrieve it. Okay? Even when we talk about courses and things like that, oh, you delete an assignment. Is it gone? Nope. You can go into the recycle bin, you can find it, you can grab it, you can reload it back into that course and things like that. So that's one of the nice things I really like, that things are never really gone per se. Okay? So that's where you'll find some things that you might be trashing in your recycle bin. And then subscriptions is just subscribing to some of the blogs that Schoology has and things like that if you're interested in some of that. Okay? All right, last few things really quick. One, on the bottom right corner here, we talked about that little S in the blue circle linking to Help Center. Okay? You'll also find down here at the bottom support. As I mentioned earlier, a lot of good support material that Schoology has for anything and everything that's on here. Okay? The other thing I want to mention down here is right here, the bottom left. It says English. You can change the menu items to a couple different languages. Okay? And it's just the menu items and all the stuff within Schoology that Schoology makes, not your assignments and stuff like that. If you type your assignments in English, the titles of your assignments, things like that, it will be in English. It does not translate that for you, but it will translate the menu items and all the tools and buttons and things like that within Schoology to whatever that language is. Not a whole lot of options, but it could be useful for some of your students, possibly. Okay. All right. Any questions on those things so far? Cool. Now, if you notice, there's a few things I have not touched upon yet. Just a few. Everybody has their own idea what a few is. All right, one of them is resources up here. We looked at it briefly, but let's look at it a little bit more in depth now. I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but just a little bit so you understand. Because our goal today is not these things, it is the courses, and we'll get there. But I want to show you, talk about what this is, because this could serve to be useful. Resources is currently your digital file cabinet. You're saying, well, wait a minute. I just connected my Google Drive. Why would I need this? Well, one, you can find stuff in here. If you put them in here, a little bit easier and quicker, right? We talked about that search issue within Drive, okay? Two, if you build assignments, okay, within Schoology, you are building those assignments in the template, the layout, and things like that that Schoology provides, right? You may not want to rebuild that down the road. So if you build something, you can then go through and store it in the resources and then pull it out later on down the road. We'll also talk about a little bit more best practices. If you do build something, maybe it's best to build it here and then push it out to your courses. Okay? So as you start tinkering with Schoology, figure out the best way to use this for yourself. Okay? You can do a whole lot. You can archive whole folders as you build things and units and stuff like that within Schoology. You can archive a whole course. At the end of the semester, you just click one button, it archives everything in that course and puts it in your resources. So next year, the whole course is already there. You can then take that, put it back into your new course, and everything is there. You just change some due dates, add some stuff, tweak some stuff, things like that. Okay? So there's a lot of good benefits to this. Okay? The other thing is, if you put stuff in here, you can easily share it to others, whether it be a PLC team, another teacher, whatever it is, and then that way, they have access to the stuff within Schoology as well. Okay? So a lot of benefits to the resources that's here. I saw a hand up. Yeah.
So how on Google Campus you could like repost something, an assignment from one class to another, is that you have to do this instead, or can you, is there also?
You can do that too.
Okay.
Yes. Uh-huh. And we'll talk more about that when we get into the courses and things like that. Okay, also just an FYI, by the way. If you have stuff in Team Drive, it does not port over into Schoology. You cannot search within your drive, that the app we connected within resources, right? Right? So it was here, here's my drive. I cannot pull from Team Drive.
Not even under shared with me?
If it's under shared with me, it'll just be in that folder. of Shared With Me. It will not be in the folder of Team Drive. I know. Okay? So some of you have converted into Team Drive and things like that, so that's something that we'll look into a little bit more and figure some stuff out with that. But anyways, just a little FYI. Okay? All right. So that was my personal resource folder that's here. You'll also notice there's a public folder. So anything Schoology-wide that people wanted to make public, you can find it here, and it is searchable. So you can find stuff within there that's already maybe been created or whatever it is that might be useful. If you've joined a group, like a PLC, you've created a group, those resources will find themselves here. So for example, I have an ETS group. I joined through Schoology, a science group. I also have my school groups and things like that on here. Those resources that are uploaded, you can find right here. Okay? And then we talked about apps a little bit already. Okay? So that is resources, and as we go through the day, we might hit up on a few other things about resources along the way. Speaking of groups, there's a whole group tab up here at the top. Okay? What's nice about Schoology is you can get to a lot of the same places from different places. Right? So I can get to all my groups here in resources, or I can click up here, groups. Here's the groups that I have joined. I can go into my groups on the top right corner. And when I do that, here's all my groups, any school groups, any public groups that I want to join or have joined. Okay? So, currently, you have the ability, for example, if you have extracurricular activities that you do and things like that with your students at your school site and so on and so forth, you can create a group, and then you can also have your students join this group. And that way you can push out resources and all that kind of stuff. You know, there's some, extracurricular activities that use Google Classroom for the same thing. Well, you can do that here as well. Okay? So keep that in mind. If this is something that you want to try out with anything that extra you might want to do, that's there as well. Okay? So you can have students join groups. All right. Okay, last thing I want to get through, and this is going to be the meat of the rest of the morning, and that's courses. Okay. All right, really quick. As I mentioned, when you land on the home page, you see all your courses there. Okay? But if you're not on the home page, you can always access any of your courses by the menu item on the top that says courses. You click on it, and then these are the courses that you have. Now, obviously, not every single one of them that you have can display on here. So this is where we mentioned moving them around. So I would put, the ones for first semester and things like that in order right here. So whenever you click that button, that first set is here, and all the other stuff is hidden, so you don't see it here. Okay? Now, how do I get to my courses? Well, I can click on this tile here, and I can go to the GUHSD Schoology training, and it'll take me right there. Okay? That's fine. I want to go to a different course. There's a couple places you can go, but this is the main one. Like I said, no, I don't want that one now. I want to go to this one. So I always hit that button up there, and it displays my courses that I have. I want to talk about this part over here, though, really quick. My courses. Everybody hit my courses on the top right. So select courses on the menu up here. You get the drop down, and then you should have my courses over there. So when you hit that, you should have this right here. We will be pushing out professional development through Schoology this year. Okay, because we want to also be, students and learning this and things like that, showing you those best practices and what that can look like and things like that. So when you sign up for the professional development that we have, that might be an online course or something like that, you will have to go through and go to my courses and then join a course. When you click on that, we will send you a course code that you will then join, kind of like Google Classroom. Okay? When you get that course, it'll populate in here. And it'll also populate in there. It could be the first one. I don't know where it would populate. Okay? So then you can go back and move it around so it's not showing up here. Just your student courses, for example, are showing up here when you click this button. Okay? But if you want to see all your courses, this is where they're at. You can reorder your courses. Right there it says reorder your courses. You can reorder them in terms of how they show up here if you like. It's up to you. Okay? Also, at the end of the year or a semester, after the grading period, the courses will be archived. So if you want to find those older courses, you'll find them here. These are my current courses, and then I have an archived course, and I have one already because the grading period has ended, and so it populated in here. And then course listing you see there is the list of all the courses at that school site, which you can't get into and see, it's just a list. Okay? All right, next thing I want to talk about here, and we have a link to further explanation about what this is, but I just want to talk about, oh wait, something I want to talk about, right here. See where it says delete course? Don't ever delete your courses. Okay? If you do delete your courses, you can find them there, but don't delete your courses. Okay? All right. So the next thing I want to talk about is something that's called section linking. So I want to talk about that just really quick and give you some ideas of what this is and what this means, and then see if something is, if it's applicable to you and what you're going to be doing. Okay? So right now, as you notice on mine, I have in this course 3 sections. So now they're individual sections, but I know that these 3 sections, I'm going to have the same materials, right? Have the same discussion, whatever it is, right? It's like my biology 1C course. I know it's pretty much no matter how many sections, these are the things I'm going to be doing no matter what section I have. Okay? So instead of going through and creating an assignment in section 1 and then going over, oh, okay, now I created it, now I need to copy it over, then now into section 2. Oh, now I also need to copy that over now into section 3. So there's a bunch more clicks that you would have to do in order to get that same material to all your different sections. Instead, what you could do is link the sections all together. So you pretty much have one page, one area you work on, and when you create and add materials, it goes through all of those different sections at one time without clicking the button. The only button you click is assign, and that's it. Okay? So that goes, oh, wow, that sounds great. Okay, well, there's a couple things. One, if you don't like it and the school year has started, well, we don't recommend that you unlink the courses. So you kind of have to decide a little bit before school starts if this is something you want to do. Why? Because when you unlink the courses, whatever one course you use as your master course to create everything, that then funnels to the other one, but that one master course will keep all the materials, will keep all that stuff, and then if you unlink the courses, the other ones don't have them there anymore. Yeah, okay? So keep that in mind. So you kind of have to play with it a little bit today, maybe, later on, not right now, okay? As you go through and you create assignments and so on and so forth later on today, if that's something you like. If not, then this is the unlinking you do today, and then we'll go back and do it again, okay? The second thing is, let's say, hey, I want a different assignment on this day for whatever reason, right? We had an assembly, you know, blah, 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 and I need a different assignment for period 2, different from my period 1 and period 3. If you create an assignment, it'll go through and it will push out whatever it is to those other periods.
That's a deal breaker.
Okay? So that was a deal breaker for some people yesterday too. So as we talked through this, because this is the first time really we were looking at it and talking about it, we were kind of working through some of these things, and so that's one of the things we found out. So if that's a deal breaker, you sometimes want to customize a little bit for one of those periods because stuff happens throughout the year, as you know. Maybe section linking might not be the best thing, okay? So keep that in mind. And we'll be diving in and digging in deeper into this as time goes on to really figure out what this looks like and so on and so forth. So maybe right now, because this is like that early entry, you know, kind of pilot type of thing, maybe this is not something you want to mess with right now. Let us figure it out a little bit as time goes on, and then we can push out those best practices and ideas and really figure out what is happening when you do this. We have had no students the last 2 weeks, so we couldn't figure this out and do this, okay? So we'll start working on that and figuring it out, okay? You had a question?
Yes. On the section linking,
Yes.
even though the assignment is in all 3 courses, could they have different due dates in each of the 2?
Yes, they can. You can designate specifics like that when you create that assignment. Okay, when you link courses too, it's really easy to go through and filter from one course to the next to do grading and all that kind of stuff. But instead of having on this menu right here all the different tiles for period 1, period 2, period 3, it'll actually take them all and put them all in one. Okay, so if you want to access your Bio 1C, you just click that one, and that's all the stuff for the Bio 1C that gets distributed to the other classes. Okay? All right, so how do you link your sections? Let me show you that, if you're interested in playing around with it. So I am going to designate in this course right here my section 1 as my master course. Okay? So then I'm going to go in, and I'm going to do this drop down right here on, drop down right here where it says link existing section. Okay, so the little cog, the little gear, link existing section. So it's telling me that this here will be the course that everything else links to. Okay? So then I designate my period 2, designate my period 3, and then I can link those together. Okay? Now you see, once I select those, there they are. And then I hit next, and there's a couple different steps that we have to go through. It gives you the option to download grades currently as a CSV and things like that. Okay? So I can do that, great. There's the download that's happening. I really don't want the download. And then link sections. So once I link my sections, look what happened. It changed. Now they're not individuals, they're all together. Okay? Yeah?
But you can only link them if they're the same course number?
That is correct. They have to be the same course number. So when you look at my courses, you will see all the ones that can be linkable because they're under the main title up above for that course. And then you might have the sections below it, just like I had up here.
Yeah.
I hear grumblings. So go ahead and work through that, talk about it for a moment.
Can you rename a section?
You cannot. The section titles come from Infinite Campus, and that's what they populate here in Schoology. That's why we are recommending that when you have the courses, you put these tiles into that course description so you can find your courses easier and has an easier name as opposed to the gobbledygook that you get from Infinite Campus. Okay? Yeah.
So if you're teaching a period that has multiple sections in it, like an EL class or an art class, because they're at different levels,
Good.
you can't do that?
So that's an excellent question. You want to address that? You want me to?
Absolutely.
You address it.
So one of the other features that Schoology offers is cross-listing, not the same as course linking. So we are section linking. So we are in the process of figuring out exactly how cross-listing works, and it's a little bit of a nightmare on the back end. We thought at first, like, that might only apply to like 1 or 2 people, like I'm not sure we should really try to get all of this functionality up and running right now. Let's get our brains around it. But yesterday, a significant amount of people were interested in the ability to cross-list. So we are trying to get our brains around it. We have right now 2, what we're considering like our top 2 priorities in straightening out Schoology, and that is one of them. So it may be that we have to come out and kind of spot check with people, or we may just host like an opportunity where when we're at your sites. If you're interested in cross-listing, we'll release you for a minute and you can come over and we'll help set that up with you. It's a little bit heavy and we don't quite understand how it works with campus yet. So it is something we want to do. It is functionality that we're understanding more and more that people need. But that would allow you to have, you know, if you have multiple grade levels or multiple subgroups of students within one course, that would allow for some ease of use there.
So we are still working on that process for you, and that is one of our top 2 priorities as we get the school year started. So we beg your indulgence and patience as we get that up and running. What we might want to do, Franz, or I don't know, we maybe just want to create a doc of people that think that might apply to them, and then we can circle back to them or email them once we get more info and updates on the process. I'll work on setting that up. Yes, ma'am.
Similar to that, so for now, I have my Q-coded students that are split out.
Yes.
They will merge eventually on Infinite Campus. When they merge on Infinite Campus, do they also merge here?
Yes,
Okay.
that is the plan, but Q coding came up quite a bit yesterday, so we do have 2 line items in our questions for Schoology regarding our Q coded students too. So my plan is that after our 2-day trainings are done, that we'll kind of create a cohort of this group and the group that met yesterday, and I will continue to email you guys updates and links and things like that, and opportunities for additional trainings, or we may do like a screencast or a quick self-paced module or something to try and get that info out, but of course we'll be available to come out and help you one-on-one too if that fits your needs. I apologize that that wasn't up and running, but as Franz mentioned in the beginning, we've really been focusing on just trying to do what we can to get it up and running for you for the first day of school, so we are working on that. Okay?
Related to that would be visual performing arts, world language, art classes where you have an art 1 and an art 3 in second period, CTE processing courses, we had welding, English, that type of thing.
Set your master section to period 4, link it with period 3, so she wants to switch it, she unlink it, and then start with period 3 and relink.
Yeah, I'm going to show them how to unlink it. All right, so if you want to play around with linking later on today, you can. You also have the opportunity today to unlink your courses if you don't like it. How do you unlink your courses? Go back to my courses. Here is the course right here, my practice course that I linked together. And link those sections, I should say, not courses, sections. And then I can unlink sections right here. Okay? Goes through. Here's the sections I want to unlink. Few different things it wants me to do. And then eventually I can unlink my sections. And now they are there, unlinked. They're back to how they were before. Okay? So now they're each individual one instead of being all clumped together. Okay? So again, something to play around with later on today.
If you're feeling hesitant about that, we did have, later on in the afternoon, we're going to dive into the resources. And it is pretty quick to assign resources to multiple classes, like batch-wise. And some teachers at the end of the day yesterday felt like that was maybe more their comfort level. But as Franz just mentioned, it's pretty painless to unlink them too. So if you're feeling like you want to take the risk, great. If you want to wait and see kind of how resources, assignments work, just try that.
But remember, you have to make your decision before school starts. Don't start the year, start putting in assignments and grades and decide, oh, no, I don't like this, and then unlink them. Practice now, take a look at it, see what it looks like, so on and so forth. And then if you decide to unlink them, do them before the school year. Otherwise, it's going to be a mess afterwards. Okay? You have something?
Some of you may have the experience where you're trying to link sections, but your sections you want to link are grayed out. We had a couple of those experiences yesterday that maybe in here, that's something that we're going to work on as well.
What we discovered is basically that was happening when people had co-teachers or multiple teachers assigned in campus. So if that sounds about right, we're working on a solution for that.
Yeah.
It's on
What,
there.
what does linking do exactly? Like, is it putting these, like, my 2 periods in one course together? Like, if I posted a discussion, are they discussing with each other at that point? Or?
No, they're discussing still within their section. You just are using it as a one place, one hub to create everything. And once you hit the publish, it goes out to those 3 sections. That's all it does. They still work on this stuff individually, independent of each other. It's just one place for you as a teacher to do stuff and create stuff. Okay? That's what it is. It's just a hub.
Gradebook as well. You, instead of going to period 1 and period 2 and period 3 gradebook, when it's linked, you have a toggle, and you just toggle period 2 or period 3 within that gradebook to handle the student work. So it cuts out at least the monotony of it if you have 2 or 3 sections.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if anyone else knows this one. We have like 30 courses, and I don't know what's what.
Okay. I don't know. That's whatever is happening with Infinite Campus and stuff like that.
You have that?
We have two. I have two of every course first semester.
Yeah.
Two of every course first.
And I'm looking at the rosters.
I have
Rosters.
28. The rosters aren't the same.
It could have been a queue. Hold on.
Okay, well,
Some
I
of
have
them are
a queue
cute,
also.
but like my AP Lit sections aren't cute, but I have like 2 of each.
Okay. I don't have an answer for any of that
For
because that's on the
first
Infinite Campus side, so
So do we
I don't
hold
know
up
right now.
on linking things and all that?
What's that?
Like, don't follow the linking.
I wouldn't do that yet then
Okay.
if you're having issues.
But
Yeah.
how do we know which one to go into, or do we just pick one?
Hopefully they should go away.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think because they're still doing stuff, maybe that's why you're seeing what you're seeing.
Okay.
So keep looking, because it refreshes every night. The student information system, connection to Schoology, from about 12 to 3
Right.
every night.
So I shouldn't do anything in here because it might be the section that disappears.
For today, whatever you do, erase, whatever, right now we're just playing, I would not create anything necessarily for like your first days of school and stuff like that.
Okay.
Right now, today, just kind of play around first.
Taking notes,
Yes.
playing around, ready.
Yes.
Got it.
Email tech support, they can take away those courses that they're not using, they're just.
Correct.
So that's.
But we also don't know, and that's what we have a note to as well, is what's actually happening with that connection. So before we just start manually doing anything, we got to
No, I
figure out
understand,
what.
but I'm, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm in the same boat, I have
Yep.
like 3 courses right now.
Yep. All right, so let's go into one of your courses. Pick a course, any course, go into one of your courses, please. So I gave you the big, broad overview of kind of Schoology just really quick, okay? Now we're going to dive into the courses and talk about some of the setup, some of the parameters that you can change, so on and so forth, within a course that you might have to do then for all your courses, okay? There are some things where you can easily say, hey, I want these settings to this course. You can do some of that, okay? But we'll talk about that in a moment. Let's just talk about how do we change some of these items within a course to set it up the way that we want, and then give you some ideas of what not to touch, change, and things like that as well, okay? All right, so we gave you a template to go through and change the tile of what that course looks like, because when you go into this right here, you want to be able to find the course that you want really, really quickly. So you can have, we're using that template, set whatever course, what period it is, change the color, so on and so forth, so you can go through and easily find it. Otherwise, as you see on yours, it populates with everything looking like this. Okay? So you might not want that, because then you got to really figure out and read and stuff like that to find it. Okay? You want quick access to stuff. Okay? Oh, by the way, the other thing I wanted to mention, real quick, see that little star right there? Little shield with the star? And then right here, no shield with the star? Anything that there's a shield with a star, you are the administrator of that course. Okay? This one right here, I am a student. I'm a member of the course, not the administrator. Okay? So when you join a PD course and things like that, you'll have some like this, all the ones that you are administrator of, the courses you teach, you'll have that there. Okay? All right. So you can change the tile right up here. Okay? Edit picture. Within everything in Schoology, all your big menu items are always, like we've been seeing, down the left-hand side. Once you click on one of those, the setup part is your work area. That's where you change all the settings and so on and so forth. You also notice over here, you have those same things, the reminders, and then also the upcomings for that course. Okay? So everything is laid out very similar no matter which window you go into. I want to go right here to course options. Okay. So one that you don't have right now is this one right here, view course as. Okay, I'll talk more about that in just a moment. This one right here, send message. This is where you can send messages to either other administrators or all people involved in the course, including students. So if I click on that, you can select either all, administrators, or members, which are your students, okay, and send messages there. Going back to course options. There's edit info. I'm going to skip that one for the moment. And all these right here, edit privacy, external tools, moderate posts, recycle bin. Those are just quick links that are all housed right there within Edit Info. Okay? So everybody click Edit Info, please. So you'll see those again, right? We just talked about privacy, external tools, moderate, recycle bin. Those are just quick links to go directly to that tab. All right, you should not be able to change the name of the course. You should have the course name grayed out, correct? Okay? The reason for that is those course titles come from Infinite Campus. We don't want to change those, because if they get changed, the link breaks. We don't want the link to break. Okay, so that's why they're grayed out. Okay? Also, you should have a few other little things, and one is grading period. Okay? I don't know what that looks like. You can't designate, that should be grayed out as well. Okay? Because it's for that course. If you are looking at a first semester course, obviously that's the grading period for that course. That's it. You can't change that first semester course to go to the second semester. Okay? So that should be grayed out as well. So there's not a whole lot you can do here. That's all put out through Infinite Campus. I'm going to skip over details. That's pretty self-explanatory. Privacy. Tiffany.
Sorry?
You want to talk about this one real quick? The privacy thing?
Oh, just the idea that there may be some things that it looks like you can go in and, like, oh, I'm going to allow my parents to do this, and oh, maybe I'll try this. Some things are monitored under that global umbrella at the site, at the district level for permissions. We haven't figured out why most of the ones we've set show up as locked, and that's great. That's the way we want it to. But there are a few within, I forget which ones we looked at the other day, Franz, and it looked like it still was going to let them change it.
This one down here.
Yeah. So it looks like you can still change it, but we have that parent communication tool locked down pretty good right now, just because we don't want a parent to start sending you messages in Schoology and then trying to message their kids' other teachers in some other platform, and then emails over here. So right now we have that turned off. So there are some things managed at a global level. They should mostly be grayed out, but every once in a while, we're not sure why. There's a few that still look like you can check them and tweak them. If you're not having success with something that you've checked and tried to turn on, it may be because we're managing it. And you can certainly reach out to me and just say, hey, what's the deal with this? And I'll do my best to explain. Okay?
Cool, thank you. All right, then some other things that we don't really have to do too much with. External tools, we'll talk more about that. We mentioned that already with those apps you can install, things like that. When you do so, this is where they populate in here. Okay? Don't worry about this. This is something that we don't have or we don't use and things like that. So we'll skip over that. Moderate. If you do discussions and things like that, you can moderate a lot of different things here. You can enable moderation. Okay? That means that before things are displayed, if students submit something, you have to take a look at it first before then it's visible to everybody else. Could be useful, could be not useful to you, that's up to you. And like I said before, if you delete things, you can see we've deleted quite a bit of things. That's where they go. I can still find them and reuse them, put them back into the course, or whatever it is that I need to do. Okay? So they're not necessarily totally gone. They're just kind of housed somewhere else, just in case. Okay? So that is the edit menu. Now, if you notice too, how do I get back to my course and things like that? Okay, yeah, you can hit the back button. Also, you'll start finding, depending on what you're doing, there's some breadcrumbs up here. So you can always hit the breadcrumbs right there to take you back to the course that you were looking at and whatever you were doing at that time. Okay? All right, so that's course options. Materials. This is what Travis is going to really get into in a little bit. Okay, so he'll talk about that. Updates. This is just posting information for your students. Whatever it is, what they're doing that day or something like that if you want to. You're absent and you have a substitute, you want to post some information to your students. You do it through updates. What I like about updates, not only will it be populated here, and if you do have an update, it'll be the little circle, notification with the number in it, depending on how many updates they have. But also, you can take that, and before I post, you know what? I want to actually make that an announcement. Okay? So I can select that, and it'll make an announcement. So when I post, okay, it'll be in there, but also when I go back to the course landing page, it's up there. Okay? So when students open up the course, this is where they go, and then they might see that announcement up there, and then you'll also notice there is notification right there for that update, that announcement as well. Okay? So there's a little drop down that you have to select if you want it at the top. So that's updates. Gradebook, grade setup. Matt's going to go over that in just a little bit. There is a whole thing on mastery grading, keeping track of standards over a period of time. That's not something we're going to go into today. That's for down the road. Okay? But there's a process and ability to do that, and something we'll be diving into a little bit more in the near future. You can do badges and badging for your students within Schoology as well. They have some badges preloaded. You can add more if you want to. Here's where you find all the members of the course, whether it be administrators or all the students. Okay, right in the Members tab. Analytics. Analytics is all about what it is that the students are doing in here. Okay? All the users, when they logged in, when they accessed the course, looking at assignments, different details about assignments, when they turned in an assignment, when they accessed an assignment, okay, when they opened that assignment for the first time. All this stuff is cataloged and stored in analytics. So as you start getting in information from your students based on the assignments they turned in and things like that, maybe start diving into this a little bit more to take a look at what it's showing you. Sir?
Runs on the materials and stuff like that.
Yeah.
When next year, since I'm teaching the same class again,
Yeah.
when I go to get populated from Infinite Campus, am I going to be able to move all of my materials from this year's class into next year's class?
So
even
what
if
you would
the
do
course
is at
code-
the end of the school year or end of the semester, you would go through and you would save, archive that class into your resources. And then it'll house in your resources, so then when next year comes around, then you'll pull that and push it into your
You
new
can
course.
import all of the school, all the course
Everything.
resources in. Okay.
Everything. So instead of going through and adding piece by piece as you work on it into your resources, at the end of the year, you just make one click on that one button, and everything goes and is stored in your resources.
So it separates resources from all the other analytics and rosters and
Yes.
calendars and everything.
Yep.
It's just the material.
Just the material.
Okay, thank you.
But your courses are archived as well. So if you want to go back and take a look at some of these analytics, then yeah, you can do that too. Okay? All right, workload planning. This is not really something for now. This will be in the future as we get more and more of our teachers starting to use Schoology. What this is, in essence, is a snapshot, as long as teachers are using it and put it in due dates for their assignment, to see how many assignments students have due on a particular day. So for example, I have a whole lot of students, more than 50% of my students, who have an assignment due tomorrow. Maybe I don't want to have a test tomorrow, because they have, by default, 2 or more assignments due tomorrow. Or, let me see, I can change that up. Oh my gosh, they have 4 or more assignments due tomorrow. This student right here, Natalie, has 5 due tomorrow. Maybe tomorrow is not the best day for a test. So there's a workload planning to see what students are doing and taking place, as long as the community is using this to make sure that this particular day might be a better day for something as opposed to another day. But that's not right now. We only have 100 teachers using this. That's in the future. Okay? All right. So there's an Infinite Campus piece. That's one of the applications, obviously. I'm not in anything, so I get an access denied. I'm not sure what you get. Okay, unhappy face, because you guys are already connected. Okay? I would think. Yours works?
Yeah.
Cool. Okay? If you get the unhappy face, reload. And then you should pop up with whatever it is that's there. Okay? And then that is pretty much it. Okay? So that is the grand tour. We spent some time right here in courses. The next thing that will happen is in just a moment, we're going to start diving in even deeper now in courses, taking a look at grade books and grade setup and what that is and what that means. And Matt's going to do that. But before we get there, unless there's any questions, give you a break. Give you 10 minutes. Get up, stretch, use the restroom.